Okay, welcome again to this monthly BHO meeting. Very glad that quite a few of you are able to join us today. It was previously announced that we might go into some project discussions as well today, but turns out that there's currently not a need for any extended discussions in this regard. So we will finally get the opportunity to continue the extranet discussions that we started in Brussels in December. And you might have seen that I sent some preparatory questions for you, and hopefully you've had a bit of a look at that. And we'll be able to have some fruitful discussions and come to some concrete solutions as to how we want things to develop moving forward. We will start off also by giving you some updates on our side. Slava will be sharing some updates from the European Commission. And then after that, we will move into the extranet discussions directly. One update on my side as well is, of course, that the end-year review in the performance assessment tool is still open until the end of the month. So if you haven't been able to fill in your results yet, I would encourage you to do so as soon as possible. In that regard, I think if Slaven is available, I will hand over to him for some updates. Slaven, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for a slight delay. Let me also connect everything. So a couple of points from my side, and then we will indeed, as Vera mentioned, very much the focus of today is on the extranet assessment. But a couple of updates from my side. First, so if we are, let me make sure that the camera is working. As you have been very much involved in the EURAXESS, this is a point where I am always giving you quite some updates, and we will do so now. So the call for stakeholder consultation has been closed on the 23rd of January. We have received quite a lot of positive contributions. I think you should see the screen now. This is the second and the last step of us interacting, I would say, with the stakeholders before we make the proposal for the legislation in September. Between now and September, there's going to be a lot of internal discussions. We are conducting the impact assessment. We have to pass a very difficult test, which is called the Regulatory Scrutiny Board. And we also having inter-service consultations. But what is quite promising is that the public consultation that ended on 23rd of January has received a lot of reactions. So we received 735 contributions directly on our platform, and also more than 117 position papers have been shared with us. Not only from the 27 EU member states, but also from 8 associated countries and 15 third countries. There's been very much a large variety of types of stakeholders that have contributed. Many of them do connect with academia or research, but they also saw NGOs, EU citizens, etc. And if you look at higher education institutions, NGOs, research performing organizations, and citizens, then we are almost at 80%. You can imagine this is now a humongous amount of data we are sitting on. A bit on information about from which countries we have received the most. So, as we have also asked EURAXESS BHOs. We have asked you in the past to also raise awareness about this public stakeholder consultation. This gives you a little bit an idea of from where we have received the contributions. So it is a very large number, but of course, when you start uh, uh, distributing it by the country, by the type of organizations, and of course it doesn't end up in a lot of similar organizations from the same countries from the same country that have contributed. Overall, it very much depends. It has been a very large survey. So we also know that it took a lot of time for the respondents to complete it, but for general measures, so anything that relates to research careers, freedom of scientific research, those are the things that we have from our team. We have been looking into much detail. These are the things where there has been quite a general support to legislate on. But of course, we are taking this with a grain of salt because in the public consultation we have not assessed the public on every nitty-gritty. So this is more very positive perception towards the general aspects of the ERA Act, but it does not really say what do the stakeholders, for example, think on on um, on some very detailed potential provisions in the legislation. So this is about the ERA Act. Before I give back the floor to Vera, two more other points. One is, I think, potentially the most important point, but very short one. This relates to the opening and closing dates of the next project on the operational excellence project of EURAXESS. Looking at how the progress is going, and I think it's going quite well. It seems to be a very inclusive process that is now taking place. It's not taking place for quite some months already. But we have also looked at what is the operational reality of Research Executive Agency, REA, because one thing is, and I think the most important and most difficult part for you is, of course, to draft the proposal. But after that, there's a whole machinery that starts to work where you have a lot of different units looking at it, evaluators, etc., etc. So it was a bit of aligning the progress made within the network to draft the proposal, as well as the workload of the European Research Executive Agency. And long story short, what this actually means, the call will close on the 21st of April. So this is going to be the deadline, 21st of April. And the call will open most probably on the 10th of March. Now, I do not think that the opening date is very important because the work has already started. But what is a very important deadline is the 21st of April. Initially, we were looking towards the mid of March, but in consultation with the future coordinator, we thought it makes sense to in order to make sure that the proposal is of good quality, to give a bit more time to both the network. And then this would bring us in April, and in that case we have the Easter holiday. So that's also why we simply decided let's simply put it on the 21st of April, and then the evaluations will actually start on the 22nd of April already. So that's a very important date to note down, and I'm sure the coordinator has done so, and the coordinator will, of course, keep this deadline in mind. It does not mean that you have to wait till the 21st of April to submit the proposal, but the evaluation will only start on the 22nd. So if you upload it on the first day of opening, meaning on the 10th of March, it will still take till the 22nd of April to start the evaluations. So that's a very important update. Another important update relates to our IT capabilities. So As you know, our contract with the contractors supporting us with all the IT developments and maintenance, in this case, Netcompany, has come to an end. Currently, we are in a gap that we are trying to limit in terms of time. Currently, we are discussing with a service provider, and they're going to they are now the they're now working on a proposal that we will evaluate probably next week. So long story short, in 2-3 weeks we should have a new set of IT experts involved. It could be the same colleagues, it could be somebody else. This is part of the public procurement game, and at the end it will be the best offer, the best candidate that is being selected to work on this. But this does mean that the period of lower IT intensity continues for, I would say, 2 weeks, more or less, maybe 3 weeks. We will see. We are trying to make it as short as possible, but of course we have to follow quite lengthy administrative procedures. And in the meantime, Vera is very much doing 10 different jobs on top of her normal job. So she's very much trying to help as many researchers and organizations as possible. But of course, she's one person. In the past, there have been several persons working. In each case, a potential novelty in the future is that what we are trying to do for EURAXESS, but also for other initiatives we have in the research careers team, is to improve a bit more the visibility of what we do. A lot of effort and also financial resources go into making sure the machinery is working, and this unfortunately does not always give sufficient time for the colleagues involved to work on the communication. So the communication is often something that happens when all the other tasks are done, and in reality, there's always much more tasks and then there is time. So what we are trying to do for different initiatives is to increase the communication and also our communication capacities, and also as part of this future collaboration with whichever party is selected, we should also have a reinforcement, and concretely this means we should have one person that will support us with communication, social media, all kinds of different things, and I hope we will have a good person. This will not be one person full-time for EURAXESS, but it's going to be one person full-time for different initiatives that are in the research career side. And I think this is going to be a huge increase from the current 0 official FTEs that are working on this. And Vera, when she has some time, making some LinkedIn posts, raising awareness about EURAXESS to the extent possible. So this is about the IT contract matters. So work is in progress. We will have a new set of colleagues that will support us with the maintenance and development. And in the meantime, we are having slightly lower level. We are offering lower level of support, but the urgencies are still being addressed. So I believe this is all from my side, and I think we can now move to a very interesting part of today's monthly meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Slaven. And indeed, we're going to now move into the main topic of today's meeting, which is extranet discussions. A lot of you were part of the discussions that we started already in Brussels in December, and it turned out to be already quite dynamic and interactive, even in the short time that we shared on the extranet on that side. So I think it really set us up for continued great discussions today, even though, of course, there are some restrictions and we're not able to be quite as interactive maybe as we would be in person. However, as already mentioned in Brussels, of course, the extranet discussions and assessing the extranet started already with the assessment that went out to VHOs last summer, and we got got quite some good feedback, a lot of very useful feedback, and definitely both expected and unexpected results, which I am happy to continue speaking on today. It is very crucial that we hear your feedback today, so please do not hesitate if you have any sort of feedback, anything you would like to highlight. Nothing is too big or nothing is too small. This is very much an opportunity for us to concretely set ourselves up for the coming year, as we will be focusing more and really making sure that the main elements of EURAXESS, including the extranet, functions as well as it can, and of course that it serves its purpose. And today we will also be discussing, of course, what is the main purpose that we want to see in extranet. Okay, so have a next slide, please. So from the survey that was done last summer, the pain points were quite clear, and quite evidently it's the outdated information. That's a bit of a stumbling stone. The features, a lot of them lack some sort of user friendliness and are maybe not as intuitive as they could be. Specifically when it comes to the library, the information is very often quite outdated. The emailer function is one of those tools that gets a lot of feedback, and we already heard a lot of it in Brussels, but I think it's important that we continue that discussion here today as well. And the reporting tools. We will not have time to go too much into the reporting tools today, but we do believe that it is something that we should have a broader discussion on, specifically on what function they serve and how USBHOs, of course, perceive them and their usefulness and functionality. Next slide, please.
Perhaps before we go to the next slide, let's maybe also record this meeting. Then also everybody else can, because then the usual practice is that we upload the monthly meetings. I'm not sure recording has started yet.
Yeah, we have started. We already
We
started.
have started.
Yeah,
okay, good.
yeah.
Doesn't show my. Okay, good. The next slide. Apologies for that.
Okay, so the main survey findings here, this is something I already showed in Brussels, but again, this is just to reiterate which tools received the most feedback and what sort of feedback that we received from you. And I think a big point was, again, that even though some of the tools might not be reaching their full potential at the moment, there is perceived potential. So there are things that we could do to make them a bit more, well, to make them a bit more relevant and to actually serve more of a function in the work that you do. The extranet is perceived as an essential platform. There's no question of that. It serves a very big function in terms of providing a platform for BHOs and for of course service centers in general to communicate, to upload material and so on. So I think this discussion that we're having today is very much about discussing the usability, clarity, and the integration of the different tools. And next slide, please. So as you saw already in the email that I sent out previously, we have selected a few of the tools that are maybe seen as the most relevant to change, update, and so on. And specifically, we're talking about the library, the emailer, the wall, book the trainer, but then also some general discussion on what material might be missing from the extranet at the moment that BHOs would see as relevant. So with that being said, I think we can move to discuss the first tool, which is indeed the library. Some of the main questions that I already sent out to you has to do with the structure and categorization of the documents. So of course, as you see in this little screenshot, you're able to filter according to topics, country, language, and so on. So there is a question of if this is the best way to do it, could the filters be differently categorized to serve their function better? What types of material are most valuable to USBHOs? What should be archived, updated, or removed? and then what would make the library easier and faster to use. I see Svetlana, you already had our hand raised. Would you like to take the floor?
Yes, thank you, Vera. We have this discussion already for a very long time ago. Let's say at least 5 years. In two subsequent projects, EURAXESS BHO and current ERA Talent, there were tasks devoted to library. Both tasks were led by Professor Trajanovic, who passed away, and were done very professionally by a person that knows his job. But we participated several chats in that tasks, and both times we submitted deliverable. I am not sure whether Commission considers this deliverable when reviewing the library, because everything there is set up, including what you listed here as questions, as a very professional way. I am not sure whether this discussion here could bring something valuable to what was already done. Generally, it needs professional IT based on these deliverables, professional IT work on that. So maybe your new subcontractor that is taking over could review these deliverables and just do the job, because we did it manually twice and it was really a very hard work. And
I see also Isser raised his hand, and because I know also Isser was very much involved in this, and definitely I recall these discussions very well, especially when the library was compared to wine. This was the comparison of the mains back in the days. Now, from the IT side, what I can say, because also this took place before Vera joined the EURAXESS team, was that most of these things were actually implemented. But I think what is a big challenge of this is to maintaining what is agreed. So the library was cleaned up to the extent I know. Some additional IT developments were made. I think Mirza was also involved in some of these IT discussions back, and this is back 2024, end of 24. It was after the non-conference. So I'm not sure to which extent something was oversaw from the list of suggestions, or it is simply also to the fact that in the meantime our needs have changed, or that we have cleaned it up but then neglected it, and then it became messy again. But it would be very good also to hear from Isser and then from George, because I know Isser, you were also very much involved in that project.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I sent yesterday night a very detailed letter. Actually, Svetlana is right. It was about 5 years ago, but a lot of change had happened. When this
meeting have big problems with internet, but
what
will be fine.
who is talking? Are you talking to me? I'm sorry, the camera isn't working. It's connected to something. I'm moving just from one place to another. So can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you there. I think it was just a mistake. We just heard somebody.
Okay, so we start working with, the system of taxonometry, and then we realize that AI is making a huge change. So about a year ago, we start talking about that. We had very fruitful discussion how to change it, but we couldn't do it in, it wasn't on the DOW, of course, and to an amendment and to change it. in only 1 year left. So we decided that our recommendation will be that starting a pilot on the next project with the new approach, how to reach efficiently, precisely, and targeted information, and not necessarily in the old system. So, and a week later, unfortunately, Professor Miroslav Trojanovic passed away, and I strongly recommend that library will be, to build the proposal that will include a pilot how to build a library of the search and everything on modern, efficient AI tools. And just another remark, which is general, that the entries must have a limit of being on the library. The default will be a year. A month earlier, the owner of the information will get a message, it's going to be deleted unless you will update it. So to reduce redundancy of irrelevant information and so on. This is a simple procedure, and this is also one of our recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iser. That is very useful information to have. I must say that indeed, because I did join fairly recently, I was not aware that this sort of assessment had already been done. There were deliverables in this regard, so I'd be very happy to have a look at that as well. And to my understanding, this exercise then becomes much more about finding the resources and the time and the capacity to execute what has already been assessed, basically, more so than finding what exactly it is that we need to fix. So this is very useful information to have. Was there somebody else who had their hand raised and wanted to express? Okay, yes. George, please.
One thing that I noticed when having a look at it and corresponds to a number of questions here is, for example, in your screenshot, the first item that's shown is technically archived, and it's not very intuitive that the archive is directly visible. I think that a lot of the programming and the organization has already happened, but some of the display possibilities are not necessarily intuitive in order to create kind of a desire to use the library regularly. For example, I don't necessarily need a list of accounts from the year 2013 directly as the first item that I see in the library. I think that corresponds also to our new colleague from Slovenia, Tanya's point that the most recent items being listed first would be there. I think a lot of it is basically adjusting display options, what's shown directly, in order to help actually make it feel like it's necessarily and useful for daily life, and also to know what is there that could be useful. That's my point.
Very good comment as well, George. Indeed, the current setup doesn't really invite you to delve into the library to explore more, as it does look currently as it is a bit outdated, and it's not possible to find any up-to-date information. So I think even with quite easy fixes, we could make quite a big change in this regard. So thank you for that. And indeed, as Tanya already commented as well, instead categorizing it in a way where the newest item comes first, that would make a lot more sense in this regard as well. Was somebody else wanting to express something? Okay, Carla, you had a in my opinion, the topics need to be updated in line with the current project needs. The list is completely outdated. Yes, there is no association with hubs and clusters or any thematic specializations we have been trying to pursue. Also a very good point, having looked at the filtering options, they don't really serve their purpose anymore. So thank you, Carla, for that comment as well. Any other comments regarding the library or anything that we've discussed so far? Please feel free.
Well, perhaps the others are still thinking if they have any comments. So we are currently looking at, I mean, as I mentioned, also Isar mentioned, times have changed since last time we went to the second phase. And there are two things that are much more frequent or recurrent now than they were back when we had our non-biennial conference. Isar mentioned AI. Another one is a much more general use of Teams. And what I wanted to check with you is, and we also had this discussion a bit when we last met in December, Teams is a very good library. It offers you the flexibility. You can put it based on your date. You have a very good search function. If we want to apply AI to the library on the extranet, it's going to be extremely difficult from a technical perspective because it has to do with how the Commission's IT servers are ring-fenced, and we have other IT servers which are only for AI. Although if you look at the Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is more and more also entering the Teams setting and bringing the advantages of AI to Teams as well, search function, summaries, etc., etc. This could be something that we can also explore. Now, I don't know, George, indeed, Teams unfortunately doesn't work for everyone. You have issues with Teams and maybe you have limited usage of Teams. We can look into that. I definitely recall the discussion we had back in December. What I can say is, for example, we have ERA Forum and EURAXESS BHOs and the Commission collaboration. It is very similar to an ERA Forum. You have one or two persons from each country, and then of course you need to have a common IT system. And for the ERA Forum, everything is made using Teams. So all the agendas are there, minutes are there, latest documents, everything is there. And for those country representatives, where, for example, Teams in some cases is even forbidden, they even have a derogation to use Teams just for this task. So I think it's also a discussion that we need to have, and also it would be good also to hear a bit from you, because if Teams can do a very good job for this and a couple of other different things, this could work. And in that case, imagine if we go towards, we had the clustering discussion, okay, based on the hubs, you can also have the administration of these different subspaces under the responsibility of those that are working on it. Carla is talking about hierarchy systems for the subfolders. So because now you're just having a huge, I guess, you have maybe a huge database of 1,800. Okay, let me mute somebody. Okay. Yeah, okay, indeed. And I see, indeed, in some countries they are taking distance from Teams.
Okay, thank you also, Isar, for adding more information about what you just spoke on as well. We're getting a lot of good feedback, and I think there's a lot of concrete things that we could do based on this, but I think it also becomes clear that this is quite a broad discussion, and this is something that we need to put more focus on still after this meeting as well. Monica says, let's not abandon extranet for the sake of Teams. Indeed, this of course goes into the whole question again of what is the function of extranet, and if we do indeed see the library function as a great added value, then I think it is worth the effort of trying to improve instead of trying to migrate it elsewhere. I think as time goes so quickly, as it always does, and I want to make sure that we have time to discuss all of the tools that have been mentioned, I think we will table the library for now. We will definitely get back to it and continue these discussions. But thank you already for all this feedback that has been very concrete, and we've already learned a lot. So this will help us as we plan forward. I'm just trying to hear if somebody wanted to come in, but I think it was a mistake. Okay, so moving on to the next tool. This is another one of those tools that we do receive a lot of feedback on and suggestions on how we could improve it. We started this discussion as well in Brussels, and we talked about the interface, and we talked about how to categorize recipients and how workflows could be simplified, and also if the emailer should somehow be integrated better into other extranet tools. I think it was quite straightforward in Brussels, the changes that you were hoping for or expecting as BHOs. And what was mentioned was, first of all, that you would like there to be a much clearer overview of who actually receives the email. So you would like to better understand where you do receive an extranet email, who have received, who are the recipients for the email in question. We also talked about the categorization again, the center type and so on. Should these be a bit more specific than they currently are? So again, these were quite small but doable changes, and it's already something that we will definitely start discussing as soon as we have our IT team back. In that regard, I do still want to open the floor for any additional comments to this. Would anybody like to give some additional feedback regarding the email, or something that hasn't been mentioned, or something that you specifically are missing as you have been working on emailer? George, please go ahead.
Just a quick clarification. I think the thing about knowing who received an email was basically knowing which group of recipients got it and not which individual recipients received it.
Indeed.
Just for a slight clarification, because the discussion was about data protection, but knowing the name of extranet users or whatever shouldn't necessarily be a problem. But in that respect, I did find it quite interesting. I sent for the first time ever an extranet email a few weeks ago. I found it really odd that data protection was then discussed, where once I hit send, every single email that received the email was listed and I was able to see it, which didn't necessarily correspond to that discussion and kind of surprised me. That's it.
Indeed, I do agree with your comment, George. It doesn't really make sense how it's important from one point of view, but not from another. So it's a very good point. And indeed, as you mentioned, the recipient aspect has specifically to do with understanding which groups are receiving it. In the case of a BHO receiving an extranet email, knowing whether they should be forwarding it to the EURAXESS centers or whether they have already received them. So that's something that would be useful to know. I've seen that some BHOs at this point manually add at the end of the email, this email has gone out to so and so, as there's not a function per se in the emailer to execute this action specifically. Did I see another hand? Did somebody else want to come in?
I just gave a thumbs up.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that, George. Okay, also Carla says also the list of individuals might be a clickable item for sender to assure if anybody is missing. Not sure if the indicator like with instant messaging could be used, delivered and read. Yeah, also a good point. Thank you. And from Verena, regarding the subscriptions for content updates, it would be great if these emails were sent only, for example, once a month. Many service centers feel overwhelmed by too many messages, and important emails can get easily lost. Also, is it really relevant to see who removed some from a service center? Verena, I don't have any objections to this remark. I agree with it to a large extent. It's quite an overwhelming amount of emails regarding aspects that are not necessarily very useful for your work. Currently, as we already discussed with the IT team, it's not possible to change this because it is a setting that's quite integrated, and you can't, for instance, unsubscribe from it. If you are part of extranet, you will be receiving these updates, but it is something definitely I would like to also see a changing. So we will continue the discussions with the IT team on what's technically possible in this regard. Isser, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, thank you. Just a short remark. Sometimes we're getting via the mailer a message, and I don't know who sent it without a name. I think that who is sending the name, address should be mail, should be mentioned.
Thank you, Isser. Also a good point. Currently, the way you receive it in your email inbox, it's also not very clear if it's something that's going to be a useful update or if it's simply an update on something that might not be as relevant either. So also seeing who the sender is might be an idea to include. We have from Monica, yes, an automatic notification could be added to the email sent saying the email was sent to BHOs. Yes, agreed. And similarly with information, who is the author, an automatic name and surname or email or institution field could be added because we tend to forget to sign. Very good comment. This is very useful information, and we will take it forward to the IT team to discuss the possibilities from a technical standpoint. I must say I agree with everything you have been said, and I believe there are many ways we could make this a lot more user-friendly and more practical as well to use. Any other comments on the emailer? Okay, we have from Siri, agree with Verena, but I think once a month would not be good. Once a week would be better because sometimes I notice there are some updates on events and study visits related things I may want to check sooner. But the updates on institutions could be removed totally anyway. Well, it's a question in general. I can understand the relevance again, as you say, Siri, on getting notification when it comes to events and study visits. But does any of you, or do you find any relevance in getting the updates that have to do more with so-and-so was added or so-and-so was removed? If there's anybody who thinks that is useful for your work, it would be interesting to hear what purpose it serves. Not always obvious to know the target audience of emails we receive, so that it's difficult to know to whom to forward them. Yes, absolutely. And Mireia, when can we expect the change on making recipients groups no individual visibility applied? Well, this is something that's going to be quite a priority as soon as we have the IT team back, because it is something that we have received feedback to the extent that we know that it's a priority, and not only for us, but very much so for BHOs and anybody using the emailer. So can't really put a timeline on it currently, but we will try to execute something within the first few months of having the IT team back. It is interesting to know what has been updated, but it would not negatively impact my work if the emails were to disappear. Okay, so there would be no tears involved if you were not to receive these updates. That is fair enough. Okay. I think it's very much the feedback we received regarding the emailer goes in line with what we've seen so far. It's just it just sort of reiterates what we have already heard from you, and I think we can confidently move on to ask for very specific changes to be made in the emailer, as we have received so much feedback on this. So thank you for your comments on the emailer, very helpful. And I think, Slaven, can you change the slide and we will move on to the next tool. This is another one of those extranet hot topics where it's a to be or not to be kind of situation. The extranet wall, you can say that it's quite underused. We see very few updates from people. There is definitely not really the possibility to have conversations or discussions on the wall, and it doesn't really serve a purpose in terms of continuous updates or anything like that. So we again discussed this in Brussels, but I would very much like to hear again, maybe some of you were not present in Brussels, if somebody would like to express whether you find the extranet wall useful to begin with, or if you potentially see I know we mentioned Teams already. George, you said already that Teams isn't necessarily very functional in some countries and places, so it might not be the best place to migrate this function, but very happy to hear again your opinions on the extranet, whether we should keep it, whether we should develop it, what you see happening with it. Svetlana, I saw you raising your hand.
Thank you, Vero. According to me, both could be very useful depending on the rules to use them. If there is a clear rule, what could be sent on emailer and what should be published on the extranet wall, we can avoid a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of disappointment when we get something that could be just posted on the wall. This is just for information. On the emailer, on the other hand, should be sent some important requests from colleagues and from for spreading information, for instance, and announcement of events and things like that, like study visits, for instance. On the other hand, the regular email that we get from the system, from extranet, depends on us. Whether we should get it or no depends on us. You just go to your profile and add there your preference.
I
Whether
think,
you would like to.
Svetlana, sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
upon asking the IT team about this, apparently if you are an extranet member, you are not able to unsubscribe from these notifications.
At least the last time I took a look at my profile, it was according to me to maybe I'm wrong. It was according to me to specify on which period I would like to receive notifications, regular notifications for things changing in like something new in the network. But this is nothing to do with the emails through the emailer sent by us.
No.
Regular notifications could be made, at least this was last time I saw, could be received at least monthly, weekly, and daily. This was a choice, and there was a choice not to receive any. At least this was last time I saw it. I should take a look now again, but I am not sure. So the point here is not about the emailer. It is about what information should be posted on the wall. There should be a rule. And what information could be sent by us through the emailer. Because sometimes I see people just do not think on that. If something is posted on the wall, the regular notification gives you this information. So it anyway comes to you as a user. So there should be, I don't know, there should be some consideration on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Svetlana, for that. Regarding the notifications, I do need to check this, but if I understand correctly, yes, you are able to choose between the daily, weekly, monthly meetings and to turn off the notifications. But to my understanding, that specifically has to do with your EURAXESS account when it comes to job notifications, anything that has to do with specifically EURAXESS, not so much with the extranet. But I do want to check with the IT team still what applies here. Thank you for those comments, Svetlana. I think it's a good point as well that it could be better defined. The expectations could be better defined when it comes to, for instance, the extranet wall, and whether it is something that could be utilized for a specific purpose, so that people know to expect that this is the place to find specific updates and so on. That could be a way to make it more relevant. I don't know the way the interface and so on, the way it's set up now. I don't know if you currently receive notification when somebody has posted on the wall, because I personally don't get them. So I'm not sure how that works and whether that would be functional. Anyways, let's move on to the next comments. Who had their hand up? Sorry, I'm not able to see. Whoever had their hand up, please go ahead and speak out.
It's me, so may I?
Yes, go ahead.
I try to be short. Again, there is no difference about the information you're sending via the emailer or on the wall. It could be the same. The difference is that the easiness to send via the emailer to 1,500 people, which is sometimes not so relevant. On the other hand, the wall is that you have to enter to see. It's personal responsibility what to use. I will just mention that the wall is important from time to time to take a look, and it changes rapidly, and it makes difficult this system. Just a remark that it's not so easy to get the wall. It should be just a click and not to enter here and there in order to see the wall, because this is a wall. Thank you.
Thank you. Good comment, Isser. Thank you for that. Who else? I think there was one other hand. Please go ahead. Did I see that correctly? No? Okay. So again, I think it's important to establish whether the extranet wall, again, if it is something we want to keep, because again, it's important that we have an extranet that is as clean, purposeful as possible. And I think that currently not a lot of BHOs are using it. So it would be interesting to understand whether it is something that you see some potential usage of, whether you see yourself using it more if it was to be technically more user-friendly, or whether the interface was more readable and so on. Let's see if we have some other comments. Okay, we have some comments regarding the notifications. And Monica says the wall could be moved more to the top. Yes, also a good point. By a simple change of the interface, putting it further up, it might make it a bit more. Sorry, Isser, did you want to say something?
Oh, sorry, mic is open. I said absolutely, but
okay, thank you. And Tanya says, could the wall also be divided into various contents, for example, events, tools, calls? That's also a good point, that the categorization might make it a bit more practical to use, and you would more specifically find what you're looking for and what you're interested in. So that's also something that could be implemented. Okay, thank you for the comments on the wall so far. If I interpret the comments correctly, we're not looking at necessarily discarding the wall, but maybe it is more indeed to find ways of making it a bit more accessible and relevant. Because if you, I don't know how often you go into extranet in general, but if you don't do it on a regular basis, you might not necessarily go into extranet daily. It's a question of also how do we ensure that there is this an interactive way to deal with the wall. Okay, I think we are going to move on to the next one. We still have a few minutes left. Slaven, if you can change the slide. Now, this one, of course, is one of those things that is, I don't want to call it a remnant from a project, but that is pretty much what it is in a way. It was useful and it was used very much during, I don't know if it was the top 4 project or the one before, but to my understanding, this is something that was developed during that project, and it is, of course, no longer really in use since 2020, I think was the last one of the update. It would be interesting to hear if you have any comments on whether you see this moving forward serving a purpose in the work that you do, if it is something that you see that could potentially be changed or redeveloped, or whether it is something that would in any way serve a purpose in your work and you would like to see it stay on extranet and potentially again redeveloped to better correspond to current needs. Does anybody have any feedback or comments they would like to give regarding this tool? As there is a non-existent network call, it could be hidden. The trainer's database can be reached via filtering contacts. Yes. I think it would need significant redevelopment to be useful. I don't think it would be a priority for us. That also is good feedback. Thank you. I think based on everything, the information that we received or the feedback we received in the survey that we're getting today and that we've also heard in other forums, is that it is not, again, something that would necessarily be missed if we were to archive it, if we were to hide it a bit more. And so that is something that we might move towards in the coming months as well, as it has maybe at this point served its purpose in its current format at least. So thank you for that feedback as well. We have a few more minutes. I can't remember. Simon, can you take the next slide, which was the next tool to be discussed? So this was more the general discussion on which resources or tools should exist on extranet, but you currently don't see there, and what information is difficult to find or not available at all. And then, of course, if there are any gaps when it comes to support and collaboration that are currently can currently be seen in extranet. I think for the few minutes we have left, I would very much like to hear your input on any resources or tools that you think could very well find their place on extranet, but currently you don't really see much of. Is there anything that is missing, anything that we could even easily add to make extranet even more dynamic and more collaborative? George, I give you the floor.
The extranet has a lot of different levels and a lot of information, and just a general search function would be really useful to be able to actually find things or help our networks find statistics really quickly without having to explain how to click through the website if they ring. That would be really, really useful, and I think would help us in our daily work in getting fewer requests for information on where to find things in the extranet.
That's a very good point, George, and I have to say that's a function I've missed myself when using extranet, so I would definitely be for adding this. Tanya says search options would be a saver. Yes, absolutely. Any other comments on any missing material? I think this is already one of those added functions that could very much benefit users. Any other comments on current extranet? No? Okay, well, we are very near to the end of the meeting. We have 1 minute left, but I think today's discussions very much confirm the direction that we are starting to head towards. And as already mentioned, it will be very much a priority this year to make sure that the existing material, the existing tools, that we make sure that they are as user-friendly as possible, instead of keep adding new and more initiatives, to try to focus on really optimizing what we have so far. So you will be hearing more about this from an IT perspective in the coming months, and what our plans are more specifically. So I thank you very much for all of your feedback in this meeting. This is the most helpful feedback we can get. You are the ones who are using the extranet on a regular basis, so we need your feedback to be able to develop it further. So thank you very much for joining today. The next meeting, you can already mark your calendars, will be on the 12th of March, so exactly 1 month for now. And we will, of course, inform you about the topic of that meeting. And as always, we welcome also your feedback on what you would like to see included in these monthly meetings. Thank you very much for joining, and we will see you again next month. Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Vera, do we stay for the conference?
Yes, we can stay here.
Okay.